Once upon a time, a bunch of people tried to tackle the problem of water access in sub-Saharan Africa. They had this great idea where instead of using a hand pump to collect water, communities could let their kids swing on a merry-go-round whenever they wanted, which would feed water up to a reservoir, which could then flow through a tap whenever people needed water. And being an outdoor advertising company from South Africa, the creators added the feature for clients to pay to put their billboards up on the reservoir container, to provide funding for construction and maintenance. It was called the Play Pump, and it got a lot of people very excited. In 2000, it won the World Bank Development Marketplace Award, and in 2006, a $16.4 million investment from the Case Foundation. But by 2009, some problems began to emerge. Actually, with the power of hindsight, we can now say that this was a bad idea. For starters, it wasn't actually that great at delivering water compared to a normal hand pump, and also they seemed to forget that children get bored. They also forgot that not many companies would really want to advertise their products in rural villages, and they never really asked any community members if they wanted these systems. In the end, around 1,000 communities across these 5 countries wound up with systems needing a full-body workout for adults to pump water higher than necessary, which they didn't ask for, remained ugly and financially unsustainable, would break and stay broken for 60 days at a time, and often replace their existing and better hand pumps. Now, this is a harsh critique, so remember this is in hindsight. We can sit back and trash talk this attempt because we know a lot more information than they did at the time. And a lot of their failures only became apparent later on. It's possible they could have thought a little harder to know it was a bad idea, but they were trying to tackle an aspect of poverty, which is a wicked problem. So what is a wicked problem anyway? Just a really bad one? Well, yeah, pretty much. The concept of a wicked problem was actually defined by the professors Riddle and Weber from the University of California in 1973. Basically, these are problems that are deeply interwoven through the social, cultural, and economic aspects of our society. The fact that almost everyone knows about these issues but still nobody can completely solve them should give you a good idea of what we're up against. And to stress just how evil these problems are, Riddle and Weber devised a list of 10 characteristics. Number 1. The clear formulation of a wicked problem is the problem. It's easy to acknowledge the existence of a wicked problem, but it can be very hard to define exactly what it is. And trying to understand everything before you attempt a solution is simply not an option. Just like our attempts to solve climate change over the years, it's easiest to improve our approach gradually through knowledge of previous attempts. Characteristic number 2. Wicked problems have no stopping rule. That is, there is no way of telling if you've really solved the problem, because your process of solving is linked to your personal understanding of the problem. There's always room for a better understanding, so you can always do better. So in the eyes of the solver, you have to stop at good enough, before you run out of time, resources, or sanity. Number 3. Solutions can never be true or false. Even when you tackle the hardest math problems, you can usually check your solutions at the back of the textbook. Yet when it comes to wicked problems, you can't check if your solution is true or false because nobody has the all-empowering ability to define that. The best we can do is get a consensus on if we've made things better or worse. Number 4. There's no immediate and ultimate test for a solution. You might implement a nice solution, watch it work for a while, and congratulate yourself, but then come back years later to find some very bad long-term repercussions. Because messing with these complex systems without being careful can generate waves of consequences over long periods of time. Number 5. Every attempt at solving counts, so learning by trial and error is a high-stakes game. Every time you try to implement a solution, that affects people, and leaves traces that can't be undone. You can't just delete every instance of a play pump or take back your funding when you realize it's making things worse. Number 6. Now, this one can actually be seen as a positive characteristic. It says that there's no way to know if you've considered all of the solutions. While it might be frustrating to never know if you have all of the options in front of you, it might also be enlightening because anything goes. How are we going to get crime off the streets? We could shoot all criminals as soon as possible, or disarm the police. We could legalize all crime, or give away free loot to would-be thieves before they have any need to steal. The idea that more solutions could always be out there might actually provide a bit of hope in difficult times. Number 7. Every wicked problem is unique, even every instance of the problem. 2 communities in Asia and Africa may be suffering the same symptoms of poverty by your definition, but you'd be sorely mistaken if you thought a solution that works in one has to work in the other. Because any small difference in something like community culture can completely negate one solution. Number 8. Every wicked problem can be considered a symptom of another problem. It will always seem like the real root causes lie on some deeper level, and the deepest are usually way out of your control. If you wanted to start a circular economy to prevent waste, you could then waste a lifetime trying to restructure all of society. Or you could settle the issue as far back as you possibly can, and at least make a lot of things better. Number 9. The way the problem is explained will determine how you try to solve it. There are many different opinions you can have and angles that you can take on the same problem. A higher crime rate can mean not enough police, too much guns, bad laws, unequal opportunity, the list goes on. So the role of the explainer becomes very important in that you should not only stick to the facts, but also tell all of the available facts. Without a full picture, people are likely to make mistakes. And finally, number 10. The solver has no right to be wrong. In their article, Riddle and Weber compare the world of science to the world of people. In science, it's okay to make a wrong hypothesis because when it's proved wrong, everyone gets a little smarter. But for a charity or a politician, everyone hates you if you ruin their life. This concept can extend to the climate change debate. For decades, some scientists have looked at their initial charts and made worrying predictions, like the world being underwater in 2020. Then 2020 arrives and we're still living above sea level. But a good scientist always changes their mind when confronted with new evidence, so the scientific community can adapt their initial understanding of climate change without denying its whole existence. Yet unfortunately, the rest of the world still remembers and will use that as an argument against science. So, now you can see these problems for what they are. The big, bad, slippery, 10-headed hydras lurking deep in our society. The problems that discourage you from trying from the very beginning. But when it comes down to it, these are the problems that are most worth doing something about. Even if they can never be truly stamped out, by having the right attitude with cautious determination to muster all of the available information and make the right decisions, we can make a difference. Data from the United Nations shows that in 1990, 36% of the world was living in extreme poverty, as opposed to 8.2% in 2019. That's a difference of roughly 1.3 billion people. And we're making some progress on other wicked problems like climate change, but tangible improvements are yet to be seen. With knowledge and the power of public sentiment, we can still close the gap between the way things are and the way things ought to be, despite the challenges. If you like this video, let us know in the comments what you'd want to hear more about, and subscribe for when we get there.